This is the emergency ThoughtCast system. This is only a test. In the event of an actual emergency, you wouldn't be listening to me on YouTube.
Okay, let us set a timer so that we can break out of this madness at an appropriate moment. This is going to be an experiment, kind of a stream of thought or a meditation. Because I've been feeling really anxious lately, and I just want someone to talk to. The only problem is that we all know that talking to people help. We all know that externalizing our thoughts and our feelings allows us to vent. It also allows us to kind of take a look at them objectively. Right? Other people provide these walls that we can bounce ideas and thoughts off of. And they come back a little bit differently, right? We can explore those in another light. There's a problem, though, right? Because communication's a double-edged sword. When you open yourself up to someone, you open yourself up to mockery, deception. Will this person use this information against me? Will this person try to sell me the extended warranty because they see that I'm vulnerable and I'm frightened? Well, in order to kind of be more open more of the time, I've developed a little bit of a ritual. Because that mind state of fear is just, it's not productive. It's useful in certain situations. But at least for me personally, when I become anxious, I start doubting myself. And then I end up wasting a lot of time just thinking about all of these thoughts, self-deprecating thoughts. And those thoughts take me to dark places. And I find that it's really hard to dig myself out of that hole once I've done it. So here's a technique that I'm experimenting with, right? To change my mindset whenever I feel like I'm not in a good place. Are you ready? Take a deep breath. Default mode network, shut down. Executive control network, turn up. Scotty, divert all defensive system power to rear thrusters. Turn on the faucet. Fill up the basin. Open the floodgates. This is the joy of thinking. Now, whenever I do this, I enter a state of total tranquility. How do I do this? Magic. It's magic. No, it's just a habit. It's a placebo. It's creating a cue in your environment, or becoming your own environmental cue, and changing that state of mind to something more productive. So usually I would be too scared to say anything, because saying truthful things, which is what we should all strive for, is really complicated. It's really complicated. To say non-trivial true things, right? Things about human nature. Things about society. Predictions about the future. So that has gotten me wondering, what if we're thinking about this whole concept of truth all wrong? Maybe we should think about truth as kind of something that we can approach, but never really fully grasp, right? Maybe it's like trying to calculate the area under a curve. You can draw a bunch of little rectangles and calculate all the area of all the rectangles and add them up, but you'll never perfectly know the exact area under that curve. Maybe we should all be more satisfied with knowing partial truth, right? And maybe that can feed our curiosity to learn more. After all, nothing stunts curiosity like the feeling that you already know the truth of something, right? So this concept of truth, I think this is a major problem in the world today. I think this is a major problem that's causing us a lot of anxiety. Is it culture? The fear of being wrong. When I was in school, right, elementary school up through college, and the teacher asked for volunteers, I rarely raised my hand. I rarely went up to the board. I rarely stood out because I didn't want to become a target for other people's ridicule. Why didn't I do this? Because I know that in my mind, every time someone raised their hand and answered in a way that I thought was foolish, I thought to myself, gee, what a dummy. So I know that other people are thinking the same thing about me if I do it. Consequently, I'm too afraid to make a mistake. And oftentimes I find myself falling behind in the class because I was too scared. Too scared at being ridiculed by my peers. Too scared of being punished by everybody around me. Too uncertain of my own lack of knowledge. But if we just give that up, right? If we just say, hey, look, that's not the goal. The goal is not to be correct in this particular moment in time. The goal is learning. The goal is improving, right? Getting better, acquiring more knowledge. Because with knowledge comes power. And with power comes money.
Show me the money.
No, it's the other way around. What do we want in this world? When do we want it? We want truth, money, and power. And we want it right now.
Show me the money.
Maybe we should start thinking a little bit longer term. That's one of the reasons that I get so anxious a lot of the time, is because I feel like, well, I want more social status. I want more money. I want more things. I want more respect. And I want it now. And if I don't have it now, then I must have done something wrong. And now I am in this mode of regret. Is that true? I try to spend less and less time in regret. In this mode, in this open mode. I call it the open mode. I got that from somewhere. By the way, I don't have any original thoughts or ideas. I just steal them from other thinkers, right? And I put them in the old brain blender, and out comes something somewhat original. Or maybe it's just, reprocessed. Like spam. I'm giving you brain spam. Enjoy. That brings me to the elephant in the room that we need to address, because I am getting thirsty. Okay. This stream of thought. Stream. I had an idea. Where do our thoughts come from? if you believe that your thoughts come from inside your brain, do you also believe that television shows are created inside the television? I read that somewhere too. I don't remember where it was from, but it's fascinating, right? Because we have to assume that there is some sort of prior cause for our thoughts. And we get a sense that there is a lot of the time, right? Have you ever been, I don't know, at work and your coworker is maybe whistling something and you don't even consciously recognize what they're whistling, but a couple minutes later you start singing a song and you're like, where did that come from? And then your coworker comes up to you and says, hey dude, did you hear me whistling that? And you're like, I guess? I don't consciously remember it. The stream of consciousness, right? Our river of consciousness is fed by tributaries. Tributaries, that's right. Smaller streams of information that come from our senses. And we're not conscious of that all the time. There's too much information out in the world. We're only conscious of a small fraction, right? And so this stream, right, is really interesting to try to reverse engineer it and trace it to its source. A lot of the times, if you pay attention, you can find why you start thinking these strange thoughts suddenly. So I thought of a river because maybe I'm doing a stream of thought, right? The concept of a stream entered my mind. And that brings me to another interesting question. Because it seems like, okay, if all of these thoughts are caused, or a lot of them are just caused by all of this information coming from our environment around us, then that means every moment we are in a sense a new person, right? Our consciousness is just a collection of active thoughts in our brain, a series of electrical activity in our brain. Or at least that's the only thing that we can study about our consciousness. We can get mystical if you want, partner, because we do have the tea. But let's just think about it in terms of things that we can study. Our brain state is just a collection of different networks in our brain that are active. There's only a small subset of your brain networks that are active at a given time, right? You wouldn't want the whole thing active at the same time. If you're a conductor, think about a conductor with an orchestra. In any song, you have these movements, right? First the horns play, and then the flutes, and then the strings, and then the timpani comes in. If you ask the orchestra just to play all at the same time simultaneously, what do you get? You get a lot of noise, and that's not functional at all. I think this is where the idea that we only use 10 or 15 or 20% of our brain, I don't even know the number anymore. But there's this old chestnut going around, right? This pop psychology chestnut that we only use 10% of our brain. And that maybe there's some way we can unlock the other 90% and become superhumans. Superhuman thinkers. But that's just not true, right? We only activate, or we only use a subset of all of our brain networks at any given time, because if you activate too many, then you just have a seizure. And, you know, well, you've seen seizures before. They're not pretty. I've had them. So, at any given moment, we could consider ourselves sort of a new person, capable of specific thoughts in this moment that maybe we'll never have ever again. Although we do tend to think similar thoughts, right? Think of those networks as structures in your brain, and they get reinforced through repetition. And the stronger those networks, the more likely you are to think those thoughts. And that's where learning comes from. And when you learn something too well, that's what an addiction is. So maybe we've all just learned too well that truth is something that we should seek. But in this new open mode, let's turn that on its head. Let's say, forget about truth. Let's just talk about what we see around us. And let's think of ourselves as artists, as authors of fictional stories, right? Because look, artists don't get any flack for saying anything wrong, do they? That is what is amazing about artists, right? Comedians can get up on stage and make all the racist jokes they want, and they get a get-out-of-jail-free card. Why? It's art. This isn't my actual opinion. This is an idea that I'm sharing with you that's supposed to make you laugh or think differently or challenge your thoughts, right? What if all of us just started thinking about ourselves as the authors of our own fictional view of reality, our worldview, and just be happy? Accept the fact that it's not all true. Maybe most of it's not true. Most of it we just made up. But you know what? No big deal. Because everyone else, all of their stories are made up too. And the best story, the story of the actual world, right? Where actual truth is. Those are the narratives that you see recurring over and over again in everyone's stories, right? Is this why certain ideas spread through different religions, different narratives, things about sacrifice, things about humility, good ideas, the best ideas? I think those have some real relationship to reality. And so to have more good ideas, right? I think Edison said this, or I don't know who said it. But someone said, the best way to have good ideas is to have a lot of ideas. And in order to have a lot of ideas, we need to be open with each other. We need to talk to each other. We need to externalize our thoughts because otherwise they just get lost. Right? Maybe you will never recover that person you were when you had that thought. You should share that thought with other people. Maybe you'll inspire them to have their brain take that and just mash it up, put it into a blender, and create some new interesting spam based on your thought. That's a gift that you gave that person. So we can all give each other these gifts of thinking. And when we do that, maybe we can actually start to approach truth in a meaningful sense, collectively. So that's all I got today, partner. Come back in next week. I'm going to try to produce one of these every week. Let me know if any of these thoughts gave you ideas.
Comment, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Let's start talking together, openly, honestly, and have fun while we do it. Life's too short, am I right? Bye-bye.